The Yakuza, or as it's called now, Like a Dragon franchise holds a pretty unique position in the landscape of games. There really aren't many story-heavy franchises out there that get 9, soon to be 10 games in, and still focus on the same hero, even if he's not the only protagonist anymore. Kazuma Kiryu is so legendary in the medium that when it appeared his story was finished at the end of Yakuza 6, the fandom treated it like the death of Superman. Obviously, it wouldn't last forever, right? While we already know that like a Dragon Gaiden, the man who erased his name is not the end of Kiryu's story either, with him set to be one of the main players of Infinite Wealth in January, it truly feels like a much more centered send-off for this character, potentially the final time he has the spotlight all to himself.
お前らじゃ拉致が開かねえ。開かねえとこに案内しろよ。これ以上手間かけさせんな。
そんな相手に凄むんやめや!
After the emotional but convoluted ending to 6, he's assumed a new identity and is under the strict thumb of the Daidoji organization, who are keeping him on a short leash in exchange for ensuring the safety of Kiryu's wards at the Sunflower Orphanage. The game, contrary to the marketing thus far, takes place pretty much entirely in Sotenbori, the Osaka district previously seen in other games. You do very briefly visit Ijincho, but you only get to see around 5% of it before the story firmly plants you back into Sotenbori. If you're a veteran of the series, this should immediately tell you a lot about the scope of the man who erased his name. So here's the big elephant in the room. The Man Who Erased His Name is, by a wide margin, the smallest and shortest console game in the franchise. Sotenbori is very small compared to Kamurocho or Ijincho, and while it does have most of the side activities any player would expect from Like a Dragon, including the long-awaited return of the slot car racing game from the first century and Zero, it can be completed in under 15 hours, adding another 10 to 15 if you want to go for 100% completion. I was genuinely shocked when I defeated what I was pretty sure was just the first act boss, only for the words "Final Chapter" to appear on my screen. This isn't necessarily a bad thing, but it does go a very long way towards explaining the irregularities with this release. The reduced $50 price tag and lack of a North American physical release definitely make a lot more sense when you consider just how much of a side game Like a Dragon Gaiden actually is. 25 hours of content might be a lot for any other series, but for Like a Dragon, it's positively brief. Side content makes up the majority of the runtime here, and it's been redone from the ground up, but I like the more organic way you come across it in The Man Who Erased His Name. Kiryu's most consistent ally in this title is Akame, not to be confused with Akane, Ichiban Kasuga's lost mother whom he's searching for in Infinite Wealth, a spirited young woman with the altruistic goal of creating a support network for the homeless population of Sotenbori. As Kiryu does good deeds around town, it increases his ranking in the Castle Coliseum, a moderately expanded version of the Coliseum side quest seen in previous games. He acts as the public arm of her network and so raises its profile. Doing extremely small, quick favors for people will lead to Akame receiving larger requests that you accept from her directly, and these are more comparable to the sub-stories that the franchise is known for. They're mostly goofy, one-off tales with silly plot twists, and there are definitely fewer of them than usual. But this method of finding them definitely feels more realistic than random people approaching you on the street to fix their relationship woes or beat up the local bully. When I previewed Like a Dragon Gaiden after playing the demo at PAX West, I said that it felt like the game had been fixed by moving back to the Dragon engine, and I'm very pleased to say that holds true in the final product. Combat in Gaiden flows nicely and feels responsive, much more so than the Unreal Engine 4 combat of Like a Dragon Ishin, and it's a comforting return to form. Kiryu gets two battle styles to pick from the jump. The Yakuza style, which the developers describe as the final evolution of his Dragon style that uses heavy force and brutal combinations to take down enemies, and the Agent style, a much more precise stance that also allows him to incorporate new gadgets into his fighting style. I found the Yakuza form to be much more viable at first, as not all of the gadgets are available at the beginning of the game, and the one you start with is extremely weak in the beginning, but once I'd gotten all 4 of Kiryu's new toys, I pretty exclusively used Agent. The gadgets themselves are not all created equal though. He starts with Spider, which basically allows him to pull Spider-Man tricks and fling weaker enemies around the arena, and this can be upgraded to be used on heavy foes as well as pulling weapons from their hands. Once I upgraded it to be able to swing multiple enemies around, Spider was consistently useful. Partway through the story, he acquires Hornet, which lets him summon drones to annoy enemies, Firefly, which lets him toss miniature bombs around, and Serpent, which gives him rocket shoes. The Hornet drones don't really seem to be able to do very much, and most larger enemies can simply swat them away without much of an interruption. I didn't get a very good idea of how I was supposed to use Serpent except as a way to escape more treacherous situations, but the Firefly cigarette bombs were great from the beginning. I went from trying to avoid street encounters to actively seeking out large clusters of enemies because just being able to effectively toss a couple of free grenades at them felt cathartic after so many games of being set upon by random goons. And in terms of presentation, the game is absolutely stunning, as all of the Dragon Engine titles have been. The particle effect flourishes that accompany Kiryu's blows remain cool to look out for the whole game, and the castle area is a colorful blowout that really shows what this framework can accomplish. Coming back to the story though, Sega is promoting this title as the necessary missing link between Yakuza Like a Dragon and Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth, and I have some mixed feelings about this. If you're a newer fan of the series who jumped in with Yakuza Like a Dragon or the Judgment titles and you haven't gone back and played all of the previous games yet, The Man Who Erased His Name is probably skippable. The story trailer for Infinite Wealth already carried more spoilers than this whole game, which almost entirely just serves to explain Kiryu's presence in the previous game. But if you're someone like me who's played every single one of these games, the ending for this one is going to be a deeply moving moment you will not want to miss. It may not be a necessary entry in the franchise, but as we move into what appears to be Kiryu's endgame, Like a Dragon Gaiden, The Man Who Erased His Name is a treat, a reward for those who have followed his story since the beginning. I genuinely was not sure what I thought of this game until the credits were rolling, and then the intention of this project clicked in my head. It's a celebration of this character that fills in a few blanks but doesn't overstay its welcome purely for the sake of matching the length of the other games, and a teaser for the main course coming in a few months. I've never been more excited about the future of Like a Dragon. Noisy Pixel is giving Like a Dragon Gaiden, The Man Who Erased His Name, a 9 out of 10. Thanks for watching, and thanks to our Patreon subscribers for helping to keep our independent operation going. Noisy Pixel is run by a group of gamers working hard to give you the latest news, previews, reviews, and more. Go to patreon.com/noisypixel for details on how you can help, and like, comment, and subscribe to keep up with our future content.
Noisy Pixel.